Can I ask you to draw on the discussion about Singapore in relation to the electricity reform that Mike Baird's doing? How is it that we hail a country like Singapore for its economic track record, but it does keep things like its assets very much in public ownership? There's an arm's length, obviously, in the way that the assets are run and administered, but they are publicly owned assets, yet here in Australia, and we see it writ large, the privatisation agenda is seen as reform, but it's far from copying the Singapore model. What's the distinction?
Well, the distinction is that Singapore is a city-state. It has an entirely different approach to some issues relating to taxation and superannuation from which Australia has. It is a nation that depends overwhelmingly to an extraordinary degree on its service sector, whereas this country, although heavily dependent on a service sector, historically to this day, of course, has also relied very heavily on its primary industries, either farming or mining, and it's also in the past and still to a significant degree has a manufacturing sector. It's impossible to make direct comparisons because the cast of this country, it's a huge country geographically, a much bigger population, abundant natural resources, and therefore the interplay and the relationship between the public and private sectors are necessarily quite different. You cannot compare a nation as small as Singapore with no natural resources with a nation as large as Australia with abundant natural resources.
I don't disagree, Mr. Howard, but the segue was there. I had to ask the question.
That's all right.
One final question, if I can. Appreciate your time, but it would be remiss of me not to ask you one question about the poll today. You said on the weekend that you were confident that Tony Abbott would be able to come back as Prime Minister. This poll has seen one hell of a comeback, if I could put it that way. My question for you is that a poll for comfort for the coalition, or does one poll not make a summer?
Well, you know as well as I do that one poll doesn't make a summer, but you also know that it's far more comforting for the coalition than if the poll were to go in the opposite direction. I think the Prime Minister understands that he has a challenge ahead of him, but as I said at the weekend, he's got the political skills, and he's demonstrated that in the past. And success in politics is a combination of philosophical belief and political skill, and he's demonstrated in the time that he was opposition leader what great political skills he has, and I believe that he can recover his position. Obviously, I and all the believers